Because less than just...
And welcome everybody to the 12 o'clock show with Mayor Joe with technical issues. Actually, my phone is running out of power. We had to get it supercharged because it's going to be for a marathon session today with our guest, Debbie Dunlap. How are you?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm doing a little
Was
tired.
that graduation last night?
Yeah, it's a bittersweet. You know, it's our youngest, and I know a lot of kids in this year's graduating class because we had at least three or four of them interned through City Hall over the last couple of years, and just knowing some of these kids through some of their athletic activities and other activities, it was really cool to see them get across the stage and enjoy that moment because today real life hit them in the head, and I'm sure plenty of people are like, go get a job. Hi, Alex. Hint. So all of that's going on. So it was fun. It was nice. The concession stands were open, which was nice. You know, there were plenty of people getting a little bit of food here and there and all of that, just to kind of, because it's a long but very efficient process. Absolutely. All the way throughout.
Yeah. So I just kind of went through that last year, right? My last graduated, and so this is the first time in 8 years I haven't been. Mm-hmm. So, but I'm glad that you had a great time and a little bit of a different view this time.
Yeah, a little bit of different view. So, and it was good, but he enjoyed it, and we found each other. You know, obviously all the kids are getting their pictures together, and that, you know, those moments are really cool to see. So,
so congratulations to all our 2024 graduates.
Yep. So we've got a lot of things to talk about today. You've got a lot of props here, as always. So today we're going to be talking specifically about the Reynoldsburg magazine. So this is basically, you know, in conjunction with the Visitors Bureau, and this is the magazine that everybody in Reynoldsburg gets every now and then. So take us through this process. Like, so when you guys are sitting around, like, how do you come up with what the articles are going to be about? What's the theme? Is there kind of what the magic? How do you make the magic happen?
Okay, so could I step back and just a second and even start a little bit earlier than that and just say that, you know, the Reynoldsburg magazine has been around for 17 years. Mm-hmm. 2007, it made its debut. It comes out twice a year. And just like with the city, there are a lot of changes that are coming through down the pike for the Reynoldsburg magazine as well. So, you know, this is a Visitors Bureau publication, and, you know, so we're talking about, traditionally we've talked about and done feature stories on people and things right here in Reynoldsburg. Mostly our audience for people in Reynoldsburg, but of course we're always looking for things to do right here at home. But we're making a little bit more of a shift with the visitor in mind. And so we've tried to start to think about some of our stories. And while they may be of interest to those who live here, because I don't know everything that goes on and when and what have you, we want to attract other people to come take part in all these amazing things that go on in Reynoldsburg as well. So things to do, things to see, things to eat and drink, all that kind of stuff. We're trying to sort of make that shift a little bit, keeping, of course, our residents in mind, but keeping visitors in mind as well. It's a larger publication. Traditionally, it has been about 32 pages. We're up to 44 consistently, so hopefully we keep that. I mean, it's hard, and I'll go through the process in a minute. There are so many stories I'd love to put into this magazine. And we're kind of shifting to a spring-summer issue and a fall-winter. So it's coming out a little bit later, and we're doing that strategically to line up with some of the events. We also have a new website, kind of still under construction. We're making some changes, but very accessible now. I know before a lot of people told me it was difficult to find the magazine online, and a lot of us, you know, we view things on our phones now or maybe on our computers. So it's a lot easier to Google the Reynoldsburg magazine and find it now without even having to know the name, the website itself. And I've just taken a lot of notes. I just want to make sure I covered a lot of things. And then also, that's kind of cool with the website, it allows us to get a little bit of feedback, right? So people who are reading it, if they have suggestions or things they like or dislike, you know, we can take those, we can pass those along to our writers, but then we have them as well, myself as editor and Les Amaji as the publisher. And then for the first time ever, one of the things that we did this time was we took one of our articles and we translated it to Nepali for our new Americans. And I don't want to say that isn't done in other magazines because it may, but nothing that I've really seen in different publications that I've seen. So we were pretty proud for that to debut this month as well, or this issue, I should say. And then finally, we have a new issue or a new highlight that's going to be in every magazine, a graphic that is going to highlight the things that are going on in the city, at least some of them, because you have so many that are going on in the city during the window that publication is out and about. So our process. So, it usually starts almost 6 months, right after the last issue. We're getting together as an editorial board. So the myself as the editor, the publisher, and our writers, our photographer, and we're brainstorming ideas. Sometimes it is a themed issue. Sometimes it's not a themed issue. It's, just kind of, we don't feel like everyone needs to be a themed issue. So, but sometimes it's kind of fun, right? And so we sit at the table and we brainstorm and talk about different ideas. And kind of once we've filled our pages, then we assign those to our writers and to our photographer. And then everybody has, several months to go out and make those contacts, do those interviews, take those pictures. And then it comes back to me, and I read through all the work and I edit it. And kind of look and see what pictures and what the art is that goes along with it, how those interviews turned out, how those stories kind of shaped up. And then we take that and I send that to our content advisor, Odella Crafter. And so she kind of looks at that and makes sure that we have a diverse number of articles, a diverse look at our city. And so then it comes back to me again, goes to our writers one more time for them to send out with any edits, look and make sure that we didn't change something that shouldn't have been changed factually, and then it comes back one more time. Then we're ready to lay out. And so then that goes on to our publisher, Les Samaji, who starts doing the layouts and what have you. And at that time, I'm looking at the story content and I'm looking at the photos and saying, what do I think is a great story to go on the front page? What might make, because your front page always, it's like a wedding invitation, right? It's what's going to make someone pick up this magazine and open it up, right? So you want that to be very inviting. So we do that, and I kind of decide, and then that's probably going to be my middle page spread as well. The story maybe might have a little bit more depth to it too. And then once the layouts are done, we kind of go over those, make sure that, with a fine-tooth comb again. I know sometimes there are errors that get through. It just happens. When you look at something enough times, it happens. And then it goes off to the printer. Yep. And then once it's off to the printer, that's maybe about a month before it is printed and distributed.
And so that's going to happen relatively soon, right?
Yes. So the very first week of June is when it will be hitting the stands, as they say. Yeah.
All right. So, the magazine is part of the Reynoldsburg Visitors Bureau. So how have you been able to use the magazine to kind of get that visibility out for people who don't necessarily live within the community?
Right. So that's one of the things I said, that we've been trying to make a little bit of a shift, right? So we want our community members to be reading it, to learn a little bit more about their community. But then also we want people from outside of Reynoldsburg to see what great things we have going on here. Not even just going on. I always say I love the human interest stories that we do, because that talks about the fabric of our community. And to me, that's another really bright spot and something to experience when you come to Reynoldsburg as well. And I think I'm going to talk about circulation maybe a little bit later, but so our and it is the Visitors Bureau and Visitors and Community Activities Bureau. So our publisher is getting out to a number of different events. There's some professional events that he goes out to. Yesterday was Ohio Tourism Day, and so he was on the State House lawn where there were lots of other people from visitors bureaus, and people were swapping and looking. And I think I even saw a post yesterday on Facebook where a friend of mine was kind of trying to determine what she was going to be doing this summer, and that was a great place to tap into a lot of resources. In fact, I heard the governor stopped by and even picked up a magazine about Reynoldsburg. So be watching. Governor DeWine might be coming
I'm sure
to
he's
Reynoldsburg.
well aware of us. It's Chief of Staff, of course, is Stephanie McLeod.
Yes.
So I'm sure that there's a lot of connections.
Yes, absolutely. There are copies of the magazines that are sent to 15 of the visitors bureaus that are in the kind of surrounding Central Ohio area for them to distribute and put out different places as well. Experience outlet or Columbus outlets are also at Easton and downtown, and we have magazines there as well. Lesamaji is also working to promote through social media, which after our web page, we're going to be working on some more social media and getting a larger presence there as well. And it's also sent to area hotels and other places that people who might be stopping in the area and visiting might be able to pick one up and see a little bit about, what's going on in Reynoldsburg. Because, you're well aware of this, but we have community guides that go into people's homes, right? And so that's all a lot of your nuts and bolts, although you have been putting some features in there, which I enjoy, getting to know some of the different council members and what have you and different things. But what the magazine is also doing, for example, in this upcoming issue, there's something on the farmer's market. Well, instead of having just the nuts and bolts of when is the farmer's market, how long does it last, who's going to be there, things like that, we're trying to tell it from the perspective of somebody who's visiting and one of the vendors. So a lot of times we're trying to tell the story of Reynoldsburg, whether it be an event, whether it be the fabric of Reynoldsburg, whether it be a restaurant, kind of through the stories that are behind those.
That's pretty. Now, out of all the magazine articles, what do you think is the favorite one that you've read? And yes, I'm putting you on the spot with that.
Well, so you kind of hinted to me that you were going to ask that, because that is putting me on the spot, because there are so many that I think are very, very interesting. I was a writer for the Reynoldsburg magazine long before I became editor. And so, maybe next to my favorite of talking is writing. And when
it's a big gap between the two, but it's still next.
No, I love writing because you get to talk to and interview very interesting people. And then what my job is then is to take what they've told me and to put that on the pages of a magazine and crunch it down to 500 words or less, and that's kind of hard sometimes to do. But when I was thinking about this and kind of looking at some of the magazines, I'm going to talk about most of the ones that I've had experience, and then some, that I've had experience writing and interviewing, and then some others that were ones that I read. But I think Victor Levenstein, so that's one of my favorites. He was and still is a Reynoldsburg resident. I had to look back and see when he moved here in 1980. I had to go back and double check on that one. But he grew up in Russia and was arrested for just in his 21-year-old college group talking about American literature. And he was sent to a labor camp. He was tortured and eventually sent to Siberia. And he has this amazing, amazing story and this bright outlook. I interviewed him during COVID. And we're like, oh my gosh, COVID has rocked our world, but your world...
being in Siberia probably was a little worse.
A little bit, right? And so it was so interesting talking to him. And here, he was still doing half marathons at the age of 98. He's over 100 now. Just a very, very interesting man in his outlook. And he'd written a book, too. And it was 13 Nasty Snakes, The Case of Stalin's Assassins. And that thing was thick, but I went and I got that and I read that. He inspired me so much. I'm like, I want to know more about this man and his experiences. So that was one of the favorite things that I wrote about. Of course, some other favorites, and I was listing them here, that were very fascinating interviews. Preston Stearns, who was Reynoldsburg's very first black city council member. Jane Mauder, who I'm going to talk about a little bit later, who's on the cover of this issue. She is an actress and has worked with some amazing and very well-known actors and actresses. But the story that that she tells in this one, which is based on true life, is just absolutely amazing. Tanya Featherstone was another one of my favorites. I did not write that one, but she was a special education teacher in Reynoldsburg, and I guess maybe I was privy to visiting her room and kind of seeing her in action. And I would say special education teachers are very special themselves, and she is just the epitome of that. And that was another cover story. And that was another one of my favorite stories. So, so those are like some of the human interest ones when I talk about, okay, you may not draw in a visitor who is wanting to go get something to eat or drink or visit an event, but you're drawing in that interest and someone saying the fabric of their community is very interesting. It's very diverse. And so those are some of those human interest stories that I really enjoyed. Trending stories, you know, like I just wrote one on thrifting. My daughters have gotten me to thrift. It's a really hot activity. And we've got 4 places to thrift right here in Reynoldsburg. And I've lived here 27 years. And the Cancer Thrift Shop, which is right across the street from here, I'd never been in there. And I mean, look at this gorgeous purse I got there for $9, right? So I love it. So talked to some really interesting people along the way there too. But there was another really interesting one that our photographer Janet Adams did, and it is a house. It's called the Corner Brook Farm, and it's here in Reynoldsburg. And it was done by an architect that was a student of Frank Lloyd Wright, and just so interesting that we have this right here in our community. I just was subbing and I took kids down to the Ohio Historical Museum, and inside that is a Lustron home. It left me for a second. And I'm going in there and I'm talking to the tour guide, and I said, we have a Lustron home right here in Reynoldsburg on Main Street. There are only, 18,000 of those left, or no, 1,800 of those left in the country, about 12 to 15 right here in Ohio. So, yeah, that was another really interesting one. So here's a bit of history, these prefab metal homes that were built during World War II, or after World War II, right here in Reynoldsburg. So cool. So those are some of my favorite. I could probably go on and on, just, and right? I'm sorry. Yep. Shouldn't even say that, right?
Well, we did ask for your favorite story, and we got more, so we kind of, we built in the time. That's why, I had some water we had to hydrate. So from this magazine, are there any favorites from this magazine, and can you preview any of those topics? Like what's coming in the next couple of weeks?
So I don't have the magazine because it is at the printers right now, but this is the cover of the new magazine. And so this is Jane Mauder, and she's an actor who lives right here in Reynoldsburg, and that was sort of like a second career for her. She is a pharmacist at Mount Carmel, or retired now, and she's had a lot of smaller parts alongside some very big names. But she was approached to tell this really neat story, to be the main character, and it's the movie Adeline. And I do have a CD, but I know it's out there streaming. And, it's this true story about this amazing horse that is, the Native Americans felt that they had healing abilities. And I've actually been out to the farm where the star horse resides.
It's a really rough job for you, isn't it? You really hated that.
I know. Yes, I love this. That's what I say. I have the best job ever. And so I got to even feel some of those healing abilities while I was out there. And but this horse and this woman enter a town and and it's a true story here in Ohio, and just sort of transform this town. And then pretty soon people are coming from all over the country to feel the healing abilities of Adeline. And at one point, again, true story, look it up in the dispatch, there was a tornado that came through, and Adeline, the horse, and if you know anything about horses, when it is stormy at all, they're very anxious, and they'll break out of doors, they'll jump over fences to get away. And Adeline stayed right in that barn and pushed 13 people up against a wall and saved every single one of them. And you can see pictures of the actual wall there, and that's all that's left of the barn. And just absolutely amazing. She was protecting those humans. So, but it's a beautiful story. So that is, and that's our front page and our centerpiece. Another one that I actually really loved doing was Darshan Boba tea. So bubble tea is super big and trending right now. And we have one right here in Reynoldsburg. You don't need to go over to East. And Starbucks finally decided to hop onto the craze. We're like, don't worry about it. We've got, I mean, the possibilities of flavors are endless at Darshan. And but I brought, this is the article then that we translated into Nepali so that we could kind of keep in mind our new American neighbors, a growing community here in Reynoldsburg. We have a lot of features about things going on, Pride Festival, Tomato Festival.
My favorite's going to be the farmers market.
Farmers market.
Yeah.
I mean, so we have, and again, we're trying to tell the story, not always, but we try to tell it in a little bit of a different way than, it might be in the community guide. Always talking about tomatoes.
That's
and
a timely topic here in Reynoldsburg.
Always, right? And growing, we always have those features. And this is something that we are going to be debuting every issue and kind of giving a one-stop shop of some of the biggest events that are going on here right in Reynoldsburg. Then I had to give this a shout out, right?
Yep.
We had already planned our issue, but then we had Santa School come to town, and I love this picture of you and a Santa there, so we had to snap that, and Santas, for all you kids out there, have to go to school too. So don't want to hear any complaining.
No, it was good. It was a fun day. I know we talked about that before.
Yeah, so those are some of the things. Again, I don't want to go, so much. We're introducing the new YMCA director. We have a feature. The growing tomatoes. I did that. Nationwide Children's School-Based Health Center at Livingston. All the health care that is being provided for our students. Updates on the developments going on in our city. We try to do that every time because we have, again, some amazing, whether it's housing, whether it's this rapid transit.
Yep, I'll talk about that in a little bit.
Okay. It's that's bringing more people to our area.
Yeah.
We have a feature on brewing beer and Eastside Brewing Company. We have so many things that, again, talk about eating and drinking, things to do, and the fabric of our community. I think people really love this issue.
Well, I know I'm looking forward to it. Got a preview of it to kind of go through and saw some cool things. Now, the last time you were here, you were representing the Education Foundation, and you were very enthusiastic with your purse bingo. We obviously just saw you a few seconds ago about your enthusiasm
Can you tell me,
for
like, purses?
So, how did it go? What did you think about it?
It was amazing. I would say it went off without a hitch, one little hitch, and I'll kind of joke about that in a minute. But we decided to do it small and do it right, and then we'll know what any of our mistakes are, what we need to strengthen, and then we'll make it bigger. And so we had 55, I say ladies there, and then my son came and helped make mimosas. Reminded him of his frat days in college. And so we had all sorts of purses. We had a wine pool. We had an extra bonus bag that was at the end. We had brunch. We had mimosas. It was at the Lux Event Center, which lovely, lovely facility. I think a lot of people don't realize it's across from the new firehouse that it's here. And so it was great. And the best part of it is that we raised just over $3,200, and that will all go towards 8th grade DC, Washington DC scholarships. We provided 12 partial scholarships this year, and this will be able to increase that account, and it'll just continue to grow, we know, so that we can send even more students who are facing some type of financial situation to be able to send them to Washington, D.C., which is just a wonderful trip in so many different ways.
Well, I mentioned the other week that we had a number of students from Wagner Road that didn't get a chance to go, and there were more this year than there ever had been before. And so what you're doing to try and help push more kids to have that opportunity to go to D.C. is a good thing. Not to say that City Hall isn't exciting, but there's a little bit of a difference between Reynoldsburg City Hall and Washington, D.C.
Yeah,
So.
and I have to give a shout out. There were a lot of other community groups and members that also contributed individually as well. this year, not just the Reynoldsburg Education Foundation. So this is something you and I talked about when we were on the board a long time ago. Margaret Mary Lesney, the co-founder of the Education Foundation, this is our first focus when we were just talking about birthing this organization. And so to see so many other people really rally behind not just the Education Foundation, but others as well in giving, it's lovely. It's
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Now, we know that there's going to be a couple of things. I know that a couple of dates have been announced for future issues with the Reynoldsburg Education Foundation. So for everybody that likes to plan their calendars out, what do you got coming up for us?
Yes. So the Mulligan Golf Classic is going to be next September 7th. Shaking it up a little bit this year, we're going to Westchester Golf Course. Okay. So you can start planning your outfit now.
Already done.
Oh, okay. Well, some of us really plan way ahead.
Yeah. I have a standard.
Okay.
Gotta hold to it.
All right. So we're looking forward to that and some beautiful weather. We do that in conjunction with the Heart Food Pantry and the Reynoldsburg Education Foundation. And then we have the REF Gala and Auction. Yep. And that will be at 1883 Locale again. That's September 19th. And we have a few things that we're going to be shaking up there as well, even though our location is going to stay the same. We just love it there. Love the locality. Might have a little extra parking. Our parking increases every time we've had it, right? Yep. But there will be some other new things. So if you've attended before, obviously our auction's always new. Yep. Obviously the student art is always new, but we'll have some other little surprises as well. Then of course, we always have Christmas on the town when we get to see everybody. So I would say please check out our website. Just Google Reynoldsburg Education Foundation. Super easy. We have countdowns on there for our events. Then we'll be back again next spring with the purse bingo. 55 this year. I'm hoping for 110 next year. So we'll be looking for a larger event venue as well. So
all sorts of cool things going on.
Excuse me.
Well, I'd hope you can stick around for a little while. Got a couple.
Can I mention just one more thing?
Of course, absolutely.
Just the magazine. Just a tease for next the fall and winter. It's going to be the food magazine. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be restaurants. It's going to be drinking establishments. It's going to be coffee and tea. It's going to be marketplaces, and we have so many different cultures in our community that it's going to be a very rich magazine.
That's very good. Any questions?
Not so far.
All right. So again, we did talk about the schools, and congratulations to the class of 2024. But there's a couple of things that have happened in the last week. I'm sure you've seen it. Board member Julie Towns is resigning because she got a new position with the Ohio School Board Association. So congratulations to her on that one. I know that it's very bittersweet because she does not want to leave the board, but at the same time, this is an opportunity for her to kind of progress.
Can I say that she is still working with the Reynoldsburg Education Foundation? She will still be on our board, so involved with the students and the teachers and the staff, so I'm happy for that.
Yep. But if you'd like to go ahead and throw your hat into the ring, into the wild and wacky world of being on a school board,
which we both know something about.
Which we know a little bit about. You make sure you go ahead and check out their website. I think once you get onto the Reynoldsburg website, I don't think you can do anything else until you actually read through what you have to do.
Front and center.
So go ahead and take a look at that. We talked about the Education Foundation and all that. And as always, if you have questions about the school district, please pay attention to the board office hours. Board member Neil Whitman has his office hours every Friday. It's at the Graham Road location. For the first 30 minutes, it's online, and he goes over anything from, the borders of the city, enrollment. I'm sure this one will probably highlight some of the accomplishments of our graduates and things like that. So check that out. In the meantime, we've got a lot of fun things to talk about, starting off with code enforcement. So last week, which took up a pretty decent amount of time, is we put a funny little thing out there about grass, and there was a person who was kind of measuring and using scissors and things like that. And people fall on either one side or the other on this one. Either they think that, yes, we want to make sure that our community looks nice, and then there's the other side that says, don't we have anything better to do? And the answer to all of that is, well, it does make our community better, and there are other things that we can do as well, but that is a big part of it. So you're going to see, moving forward, obviously, code enforcement working on commercial areas with grass as well as residential and things like that. But there's other things as well. And code enforcement is a huge thing, so kind of keep an eye out for it. It's never something where we're going to come in and it's in a torrential downpour and there's rain for the next 3 days and then we're going to say cut your grass regardless of it. No, we will give you time to go ahead and cut it, but ultimately you do have to cut the grass unless, of course, you're participating in No Mow May. But if you had to come in here and get authorized for it, which nobody has, which means that you just don't want to cut your grass, which I get it. Even for me, there's a lot of times it's hard to get the time because usually when I'm able to do it, it's like 3 o'clock on a Saturday and it's 90,000 degrees outside. Not the best time to do it, but that's kind of the way it goes. The code enforcement will be out there. You've probably seen other examples. You're seeing some of the asphalt parking lots in areas kind of getting refurbished and done again. Things like that are kind of code enforcement related. The other thing that kind of goes with code enforcement is sometimes neighbors are not pleased with what their neighbors' yards look like. There's 2 different levels of it. Obviously, one, yes, you have to have a certain level of what your yards are supposed to look like, and your neighbors can call and say if they don't think that it's there. But the reality is what you prefer for your neighbor, for your yard to look like might be different than what your neighbor does. And as long as they're within the confines of what we have required, it may not necessarily be up to your standards, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it isn't, in compliance with what's there. So a lot of times that becomes an issue, especially in backyards. So just throwing that out there for anything. But if anybody has questions about code enforcement, by all means, feel free and share them. And any questions so far?
Nope.
All right. Wagner Road. Have you heard about Wagner Road, the Wagner Road project?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Felt it a little bit.
456 days to go. And yes, I am keeping a countdown. So a couple of things have happened. Obviously, what most people are dealing with right now is a very big frustration that the city has very little control over. It is when it comes to utility work. Utility work, which would be your AT&T, your Spectrum, any fiber optics, any of those companies whatsoever, due to agreements with the state and at the federal level, basically they get to pick and choose when they come in and do certain things. And of course, they pick the absolute best time right in the middle of this project with Wagner Road. And so they've been doing some work at the corner of Main and Lancaster for the new development. The reality of this situation is it could have obviously been done better timing, but that's their call. We don't really have a say in that. The good news is they should be done with everything today. So I know yesterday it was a frustration. I was in there as well. I saw it today, and we've had some very good conversations with our utility workers to make sure that they move fast as possible on that one. The rest of the work, which is nice, is actually going quite well. One of the biggest challenges for this particular project early on is getting the water main that is being placed under the bridge and through the bridge area because you don't necessarily know what's under there. Thankfully, we made it through to the other side without too many issues, which is good. So now we're going to continue working on. Columbia Gas has been on site. They're getting all their prep work out. They could even be out today. I just haven't had that particular part yet, as well as AP, I know, has been out. So now we have 3 different entities that'll be on site and Wagner Road moving forward. Again, if you have any questions, please let us know. And while I can't tell you here right now to not drive southbound in the area where the big sign says road closed, because there are people that are still doing that. I don't know why. Needless to say, a number of residents have been very kind to share some license plate numbers with RPD on that one, saying these are the people that are doing it. And strangely enough, I know this will come as a shock to you, these are people that actually live in the neighborhoods adjacent to that area. So you might see some additional patrols out there in the not too distant future on that one as well. So travel in that direction at your own risk. So there we go on that. You mentioned the bus rapid transit line.
Yes.
So that was an article in, that's going to be an article in this magazine, correct?
Yes.
So you've got that. So COTA just announced that they are taking a sales tax initiative to the ballot this November. It's going to be a 0.75% increase on sales tax, but it gets even more fun than that. Nothing's more exciting than talking about sales tax initiatives. About 0.5% of it is going to go specifically for bus rapid transit. And then the other 0.25 is actually a renewal of an expiring sales tax. So really, it's not a 0.75% increase. It's really only a 0.5 increase. But one of the things that I've known since I've been here is one of the biggest obstacles for people to get to jobs, specifically for us that directly impacts the city of Reynoldsburg, is the warehouse facilities in Etna Township. They are usually running understaffed because Etna has a different philosophy on housing, which is a whole other conversation. And so they don't have enough workers to work in those locations. But Bus Rapid Transit would provide them that opportunity to be able to get on those buses and travel out there to get to some of those jobs that are desperately needed. Whether you live in downtown Columbus or you live in Reynoldsburg, either way you can get out there and get to that location. Conversely, another aspect of it that I'm looking forward to is if I want to go to a Blue Jackets game or the Crew or to see a play or to go to COSI, I don't have to drive down there and do all that stuff. I can hop
parking.
on. And parking is the other thing that's out there. So I'm looking forward to it. We have gotten some general ideas about what is coming our way as far as how it's going to look. But I would advise, I know I've asked if anybody wanted a town hall and everybody's not really saying anything, but we'll probably have a town hall, and if only one person shows up, then we'll go ahead and do it for one person. Because this is going to be a huge thing, because it obviously is going to impact Reynoldsburg, it's going to impact Main Street, but it will not impact Main Street any further than basically half the road. So right where we're at City Hall, everything beyond City Hall out to the Eastwood by the Department of Agriculture location, nothing is going to change in that location. It would only be basically from half the road down to the city of Columbus. But for more information, pay attention to the upcoming town hall.
I think people will come.
I think they will, and hopefully they'll drive safely because, as you know, there have been a couple of ticket blitzes the last couple of weeks in Reynoldsburg. And again, this falls on either two sides of the coin. Some people are very much in favor because the number one largest complaint that I get every single day is speeding. Also frogs, which was a new one this week, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah, it was frogs. It was kind of an interesting thing. But we'll go with tickets because people speed, and people, for whatever reason, stop signs are optional, red lights are optional, speeding, I cannot tell you how many times I'm passed when I feel I'm going even a little bit above the speed limit, and yet still people pass me at a much higher rate, only to arrive at a red light at the same time that I do, which is its own thing.
I need some type of sign for that, because you want to draw their attention to it, then you're right behind them.
So we're going to continue with these ticket blitzes because of the simple fact that this is a safety issue. I know that there was some conversation on social media about how much of a safety issue it is. The reality is, when people get into car accidents, it's either distracted driving or excessive speed that leads to losing control of your car. When you're going 25, 30 miles over the speed limit in a residential area or in a school zone with things flashing, bad things can happen. You could be late to your job. You could be late to whatever it is that you're going to. If you hit a kid in a school zone, that's everything. None of the rest of everything happens is going to make a difference in your life. That's going to be the biggest thing. So they're going to be out there. They're going to continue to work forward on a lot of that stuff. So kind of keep that in mind as far as the traffic blitz. They're going to continue. And again, drive a little safer, be patient and all of those things. As far as we have a flood town hall on July 18th, we did get that. This is part of our flood mitigation project, so this is actually going to be kind of a pretty heavy-handed one. This is going to be a lot of informational, probably have some potential options. The framework is going to be out about what the city of Reynoldsburg can do in conjunction with the EPA and Army Corps of Engineers and everybody about how to address some of the flooding issues that have been long-standing in Reynoldsburg for forever. But it's going to be at the Reynoldsburg Library on July 18th from 6 to 8 p.m.
And if you haven't gone to that, it's gorgeous.
Yes, I was just going to ask
gorgeous.
you. It is absolutely
Love
perfect. You've got to go check that out if you haven't been there. Some cool parks programming that's coming through. Apparently, tennis and pickleball has had a little beef, but I think everything's settled. We had our big town hall the other week. So everything has calmed down. We're working through on what we think the ultimate recommendation is going to be. But if you want to get interested in playing tennis, anyone from first grade through adulthood, there's going to be some tennis summer training programs that are going to start off, and they're going to be at the Summit Campus tennis courts. So they're going to start in early June. So if you're interested in those, go ahead and check those out on the Parks and Rec's website. We have a couple of days from here. We have Barbie on May 24th. That was one of the themes that we had for the homecoming parade at one point in time.
Just this last year.
Yeah, just this last year. So go ahead and check that out. There would be some fun things. And then as always, next week we've got Kinder Music, which is activities to get kids involved in singing, dancing, instrument exploration, creative movement, all those types of things. So all of that stuff is fun. And then as far as the sports, we've got the Brazilian soccer camp at Civic Park over the summer. And as always, Bryce Park is continuing to move. They were actually out on site working the other day. The playground equipment is ordered. The work is moving forward. We're just getting some culverts and things in so that way we can kind of address the trail. So once all of that equipment is, then you're going to really see a lot of work going. But things are moving all the way across. Any questions, comments, anything?
Nope.
All right. Well, this one may bring in some questions later on. About 2 years ago, there was a development that was proposed on Lancaster Avenue that was right by the Apostolic Church. So that particular developer recently could not figure out a way to get everything to work. There were some concerns about flooding, and you have to meet certain engineering requirements to make sure that whatever's built there actually is able to go there. He wasn't able to do it. He sold the property. Another company has taken over. And so they went to planning and zoning last week, and they did get approved to move in 163 units in that area. So that will probably happen in the not too distant future. I doubt that you'll see any kind of construction on that until probably the fall. But you may be seeing some early site work in the next couple of months over there. But it's been checked out by all of the various things. Now they're going to go into the engineering, and their first thing they're going to be looking at is what happens with the water. Have they solved the water problem? It wasn't that far off the last time, but there are a couple of different amenities to this one. This one actually will have a full clubhouse with a pool. There is going to be a dog park on site, so there's been a couple of changes to it that is going to make it a little bit more appealing. It looks a little bit different. Everybody's going to the grayish type of everything, so that's probably kind of going to be the motif of it and things of that nature. But if you want to take a look at that, go onto our website, go to the meetings and agendas page, and find last week's Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and then you can go through and see what those pictures look like. But if you have any questions, and I'm sure some of you might, feel free and shoot them this way. Some events, we've got the community garage sale on the weekend of May 31st through June 2nd, so not this weekend, but next weekend, so go ahead and participate in that. And now we get to talk about the fun things. So there's been this thing that's been posted out there about the dunk tank and who should participate. And it was really nice that one of our residents recommended City Attorney Chris Shook to be in there. It was his wife, so that was pretty awesome. I'll probably be doing it. But if you have any other suggestions of anybody that might want to be in the dunk tank for the Tomato Festival, because it is going to be in benefiting of the Reynoldsburg Education Foundation this year. So,
is it?
Yes, it is.
Oh, that's a surprise!
So
Yay!
if you know of anybody and you want to put it in the chat right now, you can do so. Just throwing that out there for you. But if there's anybody else outside, obviously we'll probably have the chief of police, we'll have Chief Baker out there, probably somebody from the fire department, and a couple of other electeds. But if there's anybody else that you want to put out there, please let me know, because we're going to get that all set up as we get closer. If that's not your style and you would prefer a little bit more formal, then we've got the tomato pageant. We're still taking applications, I think, for a little bit longer. Little Princess and Little Prince, grades 1 through 4, and Junior Princess and Prince, grades 5 through 8. Now, these are not competitive. The winners get kind of drawn out of a hat, so it's not like any major pressure on it. But it gets people into the experience, and it's really cool because anybody who's in royalty gets, they get invited to all the different events throughout the year.
I always love seeing them, right?
Yes.
Homecoming and 4th of July. Wait, no, not, well, the next year.
The next year's
That's
4th of July.
Yes. So
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
We happen to always be,
Yep.
The school district happens to be by the city a lot, so our floats are always there, and what a great experience for them.
And it's fun, and they get to do a lot of cool things. Now, the competitive one is between the high school queen and king. So those will be a little bit more competitive. We've only had one high school king candidate ever. So come on, let's see if we can get some other interest out there. So if you know somebody, make sure you reach out to them.
It is a really cool crown.
It is. It is a very heavy is the head that wears the crown, but it definitely is much more comfortable than the queen's crown because, wow, that's huge. As far as senior royalty, they're there as well. So again, always take a look at those types of things. Any questions, comments, any suggestions about who should be in the dunk tank, perchance?
Nothing about the dunk tank, but we do have a question. They are asking, will we have music in the cul-de-sac this summer?
No, we are not going to be doing music in the cul-de-sac this summer. It became a little bit too hard, and some neighbors were really enthusiastic about it. Other neighbors, not so much. So we're kind of shifting gears a little bit on that and doing so. Like this Friday night with the Barbie movie, there actually will be a band on site there and those types of things. So that's a good question.
We have someone that says, how about you, Debbie, for the dunk tank?
Oh my gosh, what a great idea!
Who was that?
It doesn't matter. Don't worry about that. So, and judging by the fact that she's not saying yes, we need more peer pressure. So we'll work on.
I did
that one.
it. So back in my radio days, I actually did a dunk tank at a county fair one time because I was the news director and I was the. So I've done it once before. So
It's lots of fun. It's great. All right, so
how warm is the water?
It was. I mean, honestly, it was refreshing because in the tomato festival,
it's always
it's
hot.
90 degrees. It's always hot.
Yeah.
And let's put it this way: nobody's getting out of the water shaking. Everybody's getting into the water and they're kind of being refreshed.
That's my biggest fear. I don't like being cold.
Yeah.
So all right.
All right, so
Sounds
I'm
like
going to
fun.
count that as a yes. All right,
Sounds
so we
like
got that
fun.
one.
Yes.
Well, if there aren't any other questions, again, Debbie, thank you very much. I don't think this one hits our top 6 in terms of everything, but definitely one of the longer ones this year. So we have to work and talk about more stuff next time. Because I
Okay.
know
Well,
you'll be back.
I was going to just give one final plug, to the magazine again. Please look us up online. Send in your suggestions on the website if you see something or you're not getting it, you want to know why, where you can pick it up.
Yep.
And then hopefully we'll start bringing in some other folks and, with other efforts that are ongoing with the Visitors Bureau to be able to bring some other people into our fine city, show it off. I always want to show off what a great place that we have here, but then also brings those tourism dollars in, which all of our businesses appreciate so much.
Absolutely. So a couple of cool things to kind of bring up. Right now, the hotel on 256 is scheduled to open up sometime in September, so that will add to that particular thing. What we're calling basically the Paragon site, which is at the corner of Main and Lancaster, probably, let's just say by around the 4th of July. I'm betting around the 4th of July that'll be open. So they're aiming for a little bit early June, which really is just in a couple of weeks. My guess is it's going to be a little bit later than that. But again, that's what they're aiming for. So that's going to open up. So you're going to have your Brewster's ice cream in the not too distant future, right
Which
there.
has been partnering with the REF for some great things. Another great neighbor and community member.
We also have a new business that's going to be opening up. We're trying to figure out where for all of those that are very sports oriented. If you've ever heard of Rally House. This is a lot of sports apparel and things of that nature, so that's going to be there. That's going to open up on the Broad Street side of everything, and the same with the TJ Maxx all the way down to Winking Lizard and stuff like that. So we've got some cool things that are coming up here. And in a couple weeks, I'm going to have a pretty big announcement. So 2 weeks.
Is this
from
about
today-
Dora?
No, we are working on that as well. Yeah, we're going to have that as well. Not Dora the Explorer, but the actual other one. But no, in about 2 weeks from now, I'm going to have a pretty big announcement on some things. We're just getting all the details ironed out. Something that I'm going to be very, very proud to present to City Council. But for that, you got to tune in a couple of weeks. But don't worry, next week we are back here. We will be welcoming somebody from the Reynoldsburg Community Association because I believe we're going to be talking about who might be the new Grand Marshal for the 4th of July Parade and some 4th of July parade issues. So always a great thing with that one. I know the city's involved. I know you're going to be there. Everybody's going to be there.
We
Things like that.
love the parade.
It's always a good time. So everybody stay safe, stay respectful, especially on social media because, again, social media can be great for a lot of things, but every now and then people get a little angry on there and just let's take deep breaths and just kind of relax and enjoy everything that we've got going on for us. But if you have any questions, feel free and reach out to me. You'll see me walking around on Main Street in the not too distant future now that the weather's getting nicer, probably walking on Wagner, though I don't think you should stop on Wagner Road. I think that might be a different thing. But everybody else, stay safe, stay respectful, and as always, please put your shopping carts away. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.